I'm so happy and excited to tell you about our official sponsors of the full season of She Loves Herself, the podcast, the grief season. Oh my goodness, this partnership could not be more aligned if I tried. What I love about this brand and the people behind it is not only that the product is absolutely incredible, but the two people behind it are very, very special people. Their core values and what their mission is in this lifetime on earth is to serve and support people with their natural health and their natural healing. Let me tell you about Becky and Nathan Bowles. They are an incredible couple. They have 4 children, and Becky has a background in science, and for the past 9 years they have been official distributors for doTerra Essential Oils here in the UK. So I am a huge fan of essential oils, and I have been for many, many years, but I've never found one brand that has ticked every box for me. So many essential oils smell amazing, but the smell goes away. I don't really always feel the full benefits of what I believe I should. There's quite a bit added, some things taken away, some things diluted. And that's what makes doTerra Essential Oils completely different from any other ones that I've used before. 100% essential oils. They're pure, powerful and potent essential oils with nothing added and nothing taken away. I cannot recommend this brand enough because not only does it support natural healing, it's products that I can use on my children, my pet, dog. It supports our emotional health, our physical health, my spiritual health. And there are so many benefits to a really good quality of essential oil. And I'm so glad that Becky and Nathan and I have connected, and we feel that this is just a great product to really support you all on your journey. So the exciting news with this is, because you are a She Loves Herself podcast listener, you get 25% discount. So I am going to drop the link in the show notes. All you need to do is click on the link and it will take you to a page just for our podcast listeners, and you will get 25% off your essential oils. This is quality products. I love them. I notice a difference as soon as I use them, so I cannot recommend them enough. Or you can visit the website www.botanistkitchen.co.uk, but make sure that you go over to the podcast page to get your 25% discount. Please let me know how you get on, because I know that you are going to love them just as much as me. Welcome to She Loves Herself, the podcast, and it's navigating grief season. Welcome, Jenny Powell.
Hello. I haven't spoke to you for a long time, my lady.
I know, Jenny, it was funny because it would be a good few years ago that I came on your podcast, and I remember coming down to London and I was so excited. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to meet Jenny Powell. I used to watch her on TV all the time when I was younger.
I know, it's bizarre, isn't it? There's a lot of people that do that and they go, oh, it's you. And because I think I started 36 years ago, so that's 36 years worth of sort of people remembering you, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? 36 years worth of people, you know, having grown up with you and then having kids, and then their kids may be watching and you on the TV and stuff. It's been sort of like quite a long old innings in that respect. So yeah, but don't worry. Yeah, it's me. Hi.
I know it's so good though, because my kind of era growing up was, well, 80s. I was born in 1980, but it was the 90s, early 90s and early 90s watching you. And then I saw that you'd shared something actually on your Instagram yesterday.
Oh no,
about when you were 17, you were in Scotland, actually, up in Shetland.
Yes, yeah.
But you haven't really aged.
No, everyone says that. They all call me Benjamin Button and stuff like that. I don't know. It's not I mean, I don't know. I don't really, I suppose in the career I've had and the industry I've been in, I could have really hammered it and I didn't. Might be genetics as well, because I'm South African. Both my parents were South African. one is still here with us.
Mm.
So I don't know. I don't think about it. Don't stress myself out about it too much. Think I've got to be a certain, way or a certain look or whatever. I just do what I would have done anyway, whether I was in the limelight or not. But at the moment, I think because of my age, because I'm 55 next year, oh my gosh, I feel like I want to be a bit more aspirational and sort of like, come on, girls. And I'm doing it, I'm doing it for all those 50 somethings now, and 40 somethings, and 30 and 60 somethings. It's just all for women to make just make sure they're looking after themselves, because there's a lot that's, it comes at you from all directions most of the time.
It does. Well, Jenny, you're aging well, sister. I'll tell you, you look amazing. So I wanted to say thank you, first of all, for coming on to the podcast, because this is a season that is a little bit unique for my podcast, and it's actually quite unique for a lot of different podcasts. I think we're talking about grief and navigating grief, and it is something that I don't hear a lot of people talking about. And just before we started hitting record, we were both saying that it's something that 100% of people will face death.
Yes.
Yes.
Don't talk about it.
We don't talk about it.
No.
Yeah. No. And everyone that you know and that you love has 100% chance of dying. And it just terrifies. I was like, well, thanks, Jill, water balloon. But it's a fact, right? But it's a thing that we just avoid and no one really talks about. And I know that obviously I lost my mum just a few months ago, and your dad passed away as well this year, Jenny.
Last year. Just last year. Yeah. But it's I know for you it'll be a lot more raw, obviously. And it's funny because because of social media, etc. I see all the people I've known, staff, and when they say their loved ones have passed away, I always feel like I want to reach out, because I feel like having just been through it not that long ago, I kind of get it, and the thing is, grief is something that's you've been through divorces, I don't know, marriages, I don't know, all sorts of trauma and all sorts of life experiences, but the grief one, there's really nothing quite like it, and it's something that you will have with you, I think, and carry with you or for the rest of your days. But I don't want to make that sound negative, because it's not. It's a process. You kind of grow with it. The one thing I will say out of grief and what happened with my dad passing, and I don't know whether you agree with what happened to your mum, it changes you. That's all. That's my one line I always say to it. They go, how are you? I go, well, it changes you.
And I don't think until I was saying this to my sister, I speak to her every day, and she struggles with it too. We were so close to my mum, like we saw her every day, and it does change you. It's weird for people to hear that, but I'm not the same person as I was. I'm still me. There's elements of me. I'm still, there's huge parts of me that is still me, but something went when she went.
Something went or something changed. But I think, I think in a way there's that, with that close relationship you have, it's not so much it goes, it's just that they've gone, and you have to kind of keep those embers going in one way or another. It might be the same twinkle in the eye, it might be that same sense of humor, but I think we have a lot of them with us every day. It sounds a bit of a cliche, that, but I do think it's true. And I see my dad in my children, or something I might say or do, or I've still got a bag full of his jumpers downstairs. Sometimes I just I go downstairs in the basement and I sniff his jumpers, and it still smells of him. And I could only bring myself to tell my mum about it couple of weeks ago, because I thought, I wonder if she'd be, because I sort of grabbed them when I knew he was going into hospital, and then he came out. I sort of started to collect all these things, and I put them in a bag, and I just took them, didn't even ask my mum, and I brought it up with her a couple of weeks ago. But it's fine, they're there. And I said, when you're ready, Mum, I'll bring them back, and maybe you want to wear a few or whatever, or you can have them made into teddy bears. apparently.
Well, you can have them made into blankets and stuff. We were talking about this, my sister and I, and the whole thing with the sniffing, right? I get it. My mum had a smell.
Yeah.
And it was such it's that comfort, right? So, you know, I do work, I do a lot of sort of healing and spiritual work, and I do believe that she's around me and it gives me comfort. But right now it's not the same. Like the 42 years of me being on planet Earth, that humanness, I don't want her here how she was, because she deserved better than she had in her last 2 years living. Because she wasn't really living, you know, she was existing towards very much the end, but she still fought. She wanted to be here, and it's so heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But that smell, it just, that comfort. I remember even being a kid, if my mum went out, like for a week, like for a night, like she's been with my stepdad since I was 3, right? So they've always been together, but he never moved in with us until I was 17. She always wanted to protect us and kept us quite separate, and that was her partner. And so but whenever she went away to stay over with him, I would smell her clothes. I was a real mummy's girl, right?
Yeah.
And I missed her. I used to just like hold on to her like top or something, and just that smell always gave me that safety and comfort. So I totally get it. I totally get it.
And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just nice to talk about it, because you probably find a lot of people listening, or, you know, those people that we do know that are grieving, and say, oh gosh, I do that as well. You know, and it's just talking about things. I mean, you know, nobody talks about it until it happens, and then they don't really want to talk about it either. You know, and it's trying to encourage a sort of a positive, not necessarily doom and gloom sort of vibe, isn't it, with people? Because I think it's people who haven't been through it that struggle as well.
Uncomfortable.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, I had a guy, right, when my mum died, I was down getting the kids from school, and she'd only passed about a week. And there was this like coffee shop up from the school, and the kids finished early on a Friday and they wanted some lunch. So I went in, and I was waiting outside with the dog. So my youngest went in to pay for it. And this guy came out that I'd known for years. I went to school with him, and he used to stay opposite us when we were kids. And he saw me and he crossed the road really quickly, right? But I just was like, I was a known bit of world then. So I kind of never really noticed. He just said, oh, hi. And he kind of was like as quick as he could run across the road. And then he actually found me on Messenger on Facebook, and he messaged me like within 20 minutes and said, I am so sorry. I didn't know what to say, and I feel terrible that I just bolted across the road, but I knew how close you and your sister were to your mom, and she was a lovely lady, and I am so sorry. I just didn't know what to say. But it actually made me think so much of him to find me and message me, because I thought, I get it. It's sometimes people just, I don't know what to say, so I'm just going to run away from you.
Yeah. And it is tricky. What do you say? You know, but most people I've realized on my survey, they normally say how wonderful, you know, that person is, and what they remember, their memories of them, which is lovely. But I do, I mean, for me, I suppose it switched things now. So if I do, you know, if there are people that I have experienced passing, I'm more up for just saying it how it is, because you can resonate with it, can't you? It all resonates. But it's a funny old thing. It's a funny old thing.
It is. And it's as I said, it's like the thing that everyone's guaranteed, right, is grief and death. And but we're so scared to talk about it. And again, this thing where people don't want to talk about it. And it made me think the other day when I was preparing for putting this podcast season together. And I thought, well, isn't it funny that people don't want to talk about it? And I thought, well, if I died, would I want to be forgotten? Would I want people never to talk about me? I mean, I wouldn't want people sitting crying like 24/7 for like
maybe a party.
but I wouldn't want to be forgotten. Would you want to be forgotten?
No, that's why I think it's so important that you always bring those people up in conversations as much as you can. Because I think you think a lot of things, you think, oh, I won't say that because people think I'm being more, I'm bringing that up again. But I think you should speak about them as much as you can. I do with the children. In fact, was it Polly, my youngest, she's 14. She only today. Yeah, there was like, she was flicking through her Snapchat or whatever it is. And there was this guy, he was a granddad, and he was dancing and singing. And she went, "Who's that remind you of?" And I went, "Granddad." And she went, "Yeah, doesn't it?" And I thought, oh, good. I thought, oh, good. So she's bringing up stuff. So, I'm glad. So she obviously realizes from the way we've all been that, you know, we should always talk about him. And we do a lot, actually. Do you?
Yeah, I
It's
almost
quite
more to
recent.
me, my sister. We were like
Oh,
every phone, and then yeah, and I do talk about her, and my kids are still quite young, and I really want them to remember her. Like I know, like Jude, you know, he's 11. He remembers things from when he was like born. I think. I mean, I swear, like I'm like, how can you remember that when you were 2? But he remembers everything. But my youngest Eden, he only ever probably remembers my mum being ill.
yeah.
And I remember my sister being really upset, saying like, Lexi and Jude will remember mum, but their memories, and Eden might, but their memories are always of her being ill. And my mum was at the birth of both of my children, as well as my partner, but my mum was there. Yeah. So she was there. She's just one of those people that she just made you feel like you mattered, Jenny, like that you were safe and you were important and your voice mattered. But she brought us up to believe that we were important, but never too important to look down on anyone. And so that is in me, and it's in my sister, and it's in my kids, and it's in anyone that was around her. But I always want them to remember her, that before she was sick, she was well. Like I always remember my grandparents always being old. Like I don't remember them being young, but my mum was a young mum until she started to get really sick. But I guess I just need to keep reminding the children, like the youngest one, he always dresses up all the time. But he came into I've got a pole in my bedroom, Jenny, like a pole dance pole. And the youngest one comes in, he starts swinging around at me, and a Santa hat on, he was singing like Jingle Bell Rock. And I was laughing, and then I started crying because I thought my mum would be laughing so much.
So much from her belly, wouldn't she?
She would be laughing so much. And he knew, though, they're so intuitive kids. And he came over and he gave me a hug. And I said, oh, and he said, are you okay, Mummy? And I said, oh, I was just crying at happiness and sadness because I think Granny would just be laughing so much at you, Eden. And he was like, he gets it, you know, and I don't want to hide it. I think that's it, because I think when we bottle up our emotion, the danger we've got is that we can sink into a dark place and shut ourselves away. You know, when we're always pushing our emotions away, it starts to really manifest. And then we get, you know, I've had people reach out to me, Jenny, when I said I was putting this together, saying, I'm glad you're doing this. You know, I lost my mum 6 years ago and I blocked it out, and now it's hitting me. I've, you know, and I'm really struggling because, again, I think there's this thing where we don't want to burden people with our emotions, or we don't want to make other people feel uncomfortable by talking or crying. But if we maybe just like integrate grief a little bit each day, or whenever we feel it and we allow it to come, it doesn't manifest into this big, massive thing where we end up completely and utterly overwhelmed for days and weeks and months.
It sounds good that you've got your sister. It really does as well. I'm
lucky. We've been through a lot together, and you know, we've been on that journey with Mum. Like never missed a oncology appointment. All of us, you know, that's 19 years. She had cancer on and off. You know, we've never missed it. I was thinking about our oncologist yesterday again as I was driving. I'm like, wonder if she knows my mum's died. So like random thing. Wonder if she knows my mum's died. And but it's funny how people reach out, and I don't know, I'd love to ask you about this as well, Jenny, because when my mum passed away, the amount of love that I received from people was just, my heart, like whilst it was like broken and full simultaneously, it was like, I feel so sad, I feel so freaking loved. Were you like that?
I think it's interesting because I've got a brother and sister, but we're all quite detached actually, which is quite sad. In fact, it's worse since my dad died, so that's unfortunate. But I have a huge amount of friends, and like I'm close by to my mum and everything. But for us, I was sort of inundated more. It was weird because I kind of put it on social media. I just got this sort of like great outpouring of people sending me stuff. I thought, it's just weird. This is weird. These are complete strangers. But I started to flick through all these messages, and there were some really amazing, beautiful ones. And also, because of social media, on the plus side, there were loads of people from my past who obviously follow me because they remember me when I was a kid or knew my dad. So there were loads of people saying, oh yeah, your dad used to drink with me in the pub in, 1975, and oh, he was such a great character. So it was it was sort of like it worked both ways really. So yeah, I felt sort of, I think I was surprised really at that reaction. But as for sort of like feeling, I don't know, we're like, a lot of our family, we're a bit like islands really. So I tend to go off and do my own thing, and so does everyone else, even my mother. So we're still like that. So it's a different kind of, so we're not that receptive to, like you say, this output, outpouring. Yeah, it's interesting. So I don't know how that's going to be a few years down the line. Like you say, when you're a bit of an island, that'll be interesting, because I don't know whether, I don't let many people in at all. Like my daughters, Connie, she doesn't want to talk about it. The elder one, she has her own moments in her own way. Polly's, she's 14. She brings things up every now and again, but nobody's really, since the funeral, I'd say, and we're talking 18 months ago, we've never all really sat down again since and had a good old sob or anything. So it's interesting. Everyone copes differently.
They do. And that thing where you said around receptive to it. And this is something that is funny, because my mum never really received, although everyone loved her and used to tell her, she got so uncomfortable ever receiving. She was like, wait.
Yeah.
No. And it was funny because my sister and I were like that until I started to do this work on myself like 5 years ago. I found it so uncomfortable to receive. I was like, get away. And I didn't like anyone getting too close. And you would never think that now, because I'm like, I'm not like that now. But honestly, my hardwired habit was definitely to push people away. And I couldn't allow my heart to fully receive from anyone, probably apart from, kids. Like that kind of. But it was, so when it definitely changed me, and obviously, and then I went away and did my whole healing thing in Bali, and that was just another.
Was it? I saw it. It looked fantastic. I was like,
it looked fantastic. It was,
but was
it was the most emotionally challenging thing I've ever done. But
okay.
Oh my God, it's changed me again. It's changed me again, and it's.
Do you think it was too much too soon, or was it a good thing? Or was it a bit soon?
Do you know, it's a great question, because I think to many people, including my family, they were like, what? Like, this is too close. You can't tell me though, Jenny.
No.
Once I get something in my head, that's it. No one can tell me. And I went over there, and from the second I got on the flight, it was just a disaster.
Right.
But it was one thing after another, but it was an absolute ego death. And I feel like I had to go through, I would never have processed grief to that level had I been here, because there's just so many distractions. You can cry for a few minutes and then you're like, okay, need to go on now. I got stuff to do and need to go on with my work, or go get the kids. And so then the distractions are there, or even just the TV or something, some piece of work can just distract us. Whereas when I was there was nothing to distract me, and I was at the other side of the world. So I had no one to phone when I needed someone. So I was in the mire. And there was one time in there I had, and I've never cried like this in my life. 3 days I couldn't get out of bed. 3 days I was in a room in Bali, and I never ate for 2 weeks. I couldn't get out of bed. And this wasn't me. My sister was worried. She's like, you need to come home now. Enough's enough. And I'm like, but Daryl was great. He's like, don't come. You're here for a reason. Just do it. Go through what you need to go through. And I worked with, different people over there to support me in the space, but they weren't home and they didn't get it. But yeah, it changed me. And I'm not saying everyone should just bugger off to Bali when they lose someone, but that was my journey. And I wanted to be pushed into grief. I wanted to feel, and I wanted to work on how I could receive more, how I could learn from this and start to honor grief, and how could I take it with me without feeling like I need to lock it away. And that's definitely helped. And I think coming back, I then said, I'm going to put this podcast together, and I want to support people in this space. I'm not an expert in grief, absolutely not, but
who is?
Who is, right?
I don't know about all that, I mean, who really is? So I wouldn't, I don't know. I think experiencing it is when you makes you an expert.
Yeah,
really.
Definitely.
And you can only, you can share your side of things, but and I think it's brilliant that you're doing this. I really do. And I think there should be more doors open for people to feel like they can just, just go in and out when they feel the need, and then bugger off to Bali. I feel a film coming on. Bugger off to Bali.
Let's call it bugger off to Bali. I mean, when you're talking about your dad, were you quite close to your dad?
Yeah, I was like literally, we were two peas in a pod. In fact, my partner, Martin, he always says, you wouldn't do what you do if it hadn't been for your dad. He was just, his character and just the way he was with people. I mean, to this day, both my daughters, everyone goes, oh my gosh, you're so like granddad. That is exactly, again, my eldest daughter, she's 21 now. We went somewhere, she went, oh, I'm just waiting. She was sitting down in a cafe, and it takes me half an hour to get across the room because I want to talk to everyone and say hi. And she said, you're just like granddad, not because of what I do, but because I just like a nice energy and I like to spread the love. And she went, you're just like granddad. She said, I've been sitting here for 5 minutes watching you, and you're exactly the same. And you actually try and catch people's eyes so that then you can, have a little conversation. She said, you're exactly the same. And I went, I know I am. I said, well, I've got to do it even more now because he's not here.
Well, that's it. You've been promoted.
Yeah, I have. So I was incredibly close to my father, more than I could probably manage to say. If I'd spoke in detail about how close I was, I'd probably cry a lot. So he's a big, massive part of me. Huge.
Crying's welcome.
Huge,
right?
Yeah,
I feel that even from you as you're speaking, your energy, I totally feel that, right? Because there's that bond.
It's just, he just one look, he just look at me. He always knew, he knew everything about me. He knew when I walked in the room, he knew how I felt. He just, but he was also one of those people who, he was just completely and utterly unforgettable. There's people that have met him for like 5 minutes. And funnily enough, the week before my dad's funeral, I was in a big sort of like department store, and this random lady tapped me on the shoulder, and she went, oh, excuse me. She said, I hate to bother you. She said, but how's your dad? And it was so bizarre. And I went, what? And she went, oh, your dad. She said, I was just talking about your dad last night to my husband, because a year ago we went to this place and your dad came to sit down with his walking stick, and he bought me and my family all a little drink. And she said he was just the loveliest man. He was chatting about how proud he was of you, because obviously that's why she knew that he was my. And she said, we were just talking about him yesterday, saying what a unique and what an amazing guy he was. And she said, and now you're here. And then I just burst into tears, and I was like, he died last week. And she said, I'm so sorry. I said, you know what? I think you were meant to come and tell me that. I said, because now I've got something to say in the eulogy. And I started with that because I said that was my dad all over. Everywhere I go, people say, how's your dad? He's a one. He's such a character. Oh, I'll never forget your dad. I only met him once, but
So beautiful.
Yeah.
What a gift. What a gift, right? But isn't that you're like, is that you're so proud, right? Of your dad. Imagine that being
Imagine that being your dad. Like, I didn't have that, you know. I didn't have my, you know, my stepdad was around and he's a great guy, but I didn't have a dad, you know, dad. My dad wasn't, you know, he's separated with my mum when my sister was 2 and she was like 8 months pregnant with me, but he passed away like 3 years ago, just about this time actually. But we went to say to him in the hospital, because he'd asked to see us, he was dying. And we went in, he was 68 when he died. And we went in and he was upset and he was saying, I'm sorry, I wasn't there. And we just said, look, you know, it was actually, it was the best thing, because had you been in our lives would never been as good as they are. My mum did such a great job, and if he'd have been in and out, we might not have turned out how we turned out. And I said to him, just, you know, go in peace. And he died that night. He cried and he shut his eyes and he passed away that night. I didn't have that relationship with my dad, but the way you speak about your dad, like, wow, it's amazing.
Yeah, he was just I mean, he was South African. Both my parents are South African, so he was a Cape Coloured. So he came from District 6, which, you know, they escaped apartheid back in the 50s to come here, you know. And you got to remember, this guy, I think a lot of his makeup was he was a people pleaser. You know, I think he came here, he was the wrong colour. He'd come from a place, you know, he'd come from apartheid where he was treated in such an awful way. And then he came here and he couldn't quite believe that he could go to the pub with a white man, and he could go, you know, get on a bus with a white person, and, you know, that he could get a job and work alongside a white guy. And I think that's why he's always, since he came here, you know, he made the most of certainly being memorable, but also, you know, just wanting to make everyone laugh and to make everyone comfortable. And it might have been because of where he's come from, and maybe to make himself feel comfortable. So he would always be the one to light up a room, you know. And considering what I've done in my career, etc., if my dad was in the room, he's the one that lit up the room, not me. You know, he was the one that everybody wanted to listen to. Everybody wanted him to entertain us all. He was a complete and utter one-off, I have to say. And, you know, I know everyone's biased, but he just had that extra bit of magic. And I think when we have people like that, you know, their energy, it never disappears. And it's it's quite a thing to get your head around now, you know, because I'm kind of working out. I go and talk to him quite a lot. I always go outside in the backyard and have a chat. Yeah, I always do that. Yeah, I always have a quick chat, and I'm like, all right, Dad.
I was going to ask you, do you believe in afterlife, as in spirit, that he's still around?
Well, funnily enough, when he had because he had palliative care, and he was at home for a bit before he went into the hospice. And I remember one of the nurses obviously preparing him a bit and sort of saying, so Les, you know, do you believe in life after death? And he just went, well, nobody's come back to tell me about it. So for me, I believe in something, but I just think we're an energy. We're a huge bundle of sparks and energy that goes on elsewhere, but not necessarily in the way that we are now. That's what I believe so far. That's what I've worked out. Yeah.
Spirit, energy. And do you ever, when you're chatting to him, have you ever said, like, give me a sign? Have you ever heard like something's happened where you've been like, oh my gosh?
Oh, there's quite a few things like that. I mean, there's always the white feathers, but then, you know, the kids are always really, they're just like pee on my cornflakes and say, yeah, but you've got pillows everywhere, Mum. No, but Mum, there's a feather. But I took Mum, we had to go and choose, this is another very practical, but, you know, has to be done. We had to go and choose a little spot in the, at the cemetery to put Dad. And there were a couple of like plots given to us, and we were sitting there on the bench and thinking, should we get that one or that one? And I said, nah, Mum, it's got to be this one. There's just a tree that just comes over and the sun will come down. And my dad liked the sun. I said, I think it should be in the sun whenever we get it, you know. And we said, yeah, that one. So I wrote down, I had a little pad and pen, and I wrote down B6 or whatever it was for that plot. And as we said it, this robin out of nowhere. And it was the summer, it wasn't the winter.
Wow.
This robin just sat on that little bit of plot. And I was like, there you go. There's Les. I'm always like, there's Les. There's Les. So there are signs all the time. And then I think Mum and my eldest, they were talking about him in the car. My eldest was driving my mum somewhere. My mum was like, oh, you know, how are you getting on, Connie, about your granddad? She said, no, it's all right. It's all right. I'm all right. She's one of those. No, I'm all right. I don't want to talk about it, but I'm fine. And as they did it, this car pulled up in front of them, and it had a private number plate with LES on it. And they were like, oh my God. I know.
This is it. They're all, honestly,
all over.
It is.
Yeah.
And we don't, and this is the thing, so many of us don't trust it though.
No.
We don't trust it. We're like, oh, it's just a coincidence.
I mean, how much do you want them to do?
I know. Well, Jenny, I'll share a story, right? When I actually wrote a blog about this, because I want to give people hope, right? That we can still connect if we want to. They're not fully gone, right? So when I was coming back from Bali, I was sitting on the flight and I had to stop off at Dubai, and Bali to Dubai and then Dubai to Glasgow. And I was on the flight and I got talking to this woman, and she was there with her son and her husband. She was lovely. And she was chatting away, and she said, oh, why are you here? And I told her, I said, oh, my mum passed away. I've just come here to sort of look at, you know, navigating grief. And she's like, oh, that's so brave. She said, you know, my brother committed suicide. And she said it was actually like 18 years ago. And I miss him so much. We were so close. And she was lovely. She had a lovely, calm, kind energy. And she said, do you ever ask for signs? She says, because I get signs from my brother all the time. It's always rainbows. And, you know, whenever I say, if you're around, you know, show me a rainbow and I'll see a rainbow. And I said to her, well, you know, I said, sometimes I hear songs, or I'll start singing a song in my head. I'm like, where's this song coming from? And then I'll get Alexa to play it. And I'm like, oh my God, that's so like it's like my mom's talking to me through this song. She said, ask her for a sign, like just ask her for another sign. It's a really, really clear sign. So I got off the flight to Dubai and we're stopped over for a few hours. And I'd got my mobile phone. I went and bought a SIM card in Dubai because it was like 30 quid a minute for a phone call. So I got a Dubai SIM card. So I went to the Apple shop in Dubai and I couldn't work. I need one of those pins to get the SIM out to put my old Apple, like my old iPhone, like normal SIM back in. And I said, have you got one of those pins so I can take out this old SIM card? So the lady put the pin in, I took the SIM card out and I put my SIM back in. And I turned my phone back on and it flashed up. You have 21 voicemails, unheard voicemails from my mum mobile. 21.
Oh, wow.
Not a single voicemail from anyone else. And I screenshotted it, 21 in a row. And it all said my mum, and they'd not even been heard.
Wow.
Honestly, and I'd had such a rough ride in Bali, and I thought, have I even got this in my locker to listen to this? And I started listening to the first one, and she said it was her voice before she started. Her voice wasn't her voice so much anymore. And it was from like January 2021. So before she went and had her stroke. And she said, hi Jill, it's your mum. I just want to check that you're okay and tell you I love you. And every one of them was just want to check in. Okay, darling, I love you.
Yeah.
Oh, Jenny, honestly, I was just like, if that isn't a sign, I don't know what is.
Yeah, what is exactly? I mean, she couldn't have been more clear, could she, what she was saying and getting through to you, you know, and that's what you've got to recognise and embrace it.
And for open, you know, for anyone that's listening to this, and if you've been through grief or you're navigating grief right now, like, be open to everything, you know, be open and say, well, I'm going to open up that space. I think it is our energy. If we are so closed off, then we don't get the signs, right?
Yeah, you have to be receptive to it, definitely, in whatever way that may be, in your own way. You know, and if you want to be, you know, in private and do it and just look up and, I don't know, say, come on, where are you? What are you going to do for me? You know, then do it that way. But or write things down as well. I think that's quite a nice thing to do. Maybe write to them, but sniff their jumpers, whatever it takes.
I like the writing down as well. I think that's it. You know, we can write them letters and we don't, you know, there's nowhere to send it, right? But I think even just allowing ourselves to fully help that process by writing down, because a lot of the time we just keep all these emotions in. It gets a lot. If we can just sort of even keep a bit of a journal or write some stuff down, it really, really helps. I mean, I have a sort of ritual that I do, and it's helped me so much. And it never takes away the fact that they're not here. And I think one of the things that people had said to me, and I would love to ask you this, Jenny, was around regrets. You know, having regrets. And you know, you said your dad, you know, was in a hospice. I fortunately, you know, and for some people it's not, but I had the opportunity to say the things I wanted to say to my mum.
Yes.
And I'm so blessed for that. I'm so glad.
I know, it's that's where I really do feel for people who maybe didn't get that opportunity for whatever reason, especially in the last few years when all that went on. Yeah, I don't even mention it.
The C word.
Yeah, I can't mention it. I get too angry. So but yes, I was fortunate enough. In fact, you know, these hospices, I mean, I was completely overwhelmed and humbled by what they do. And they sort of time things as well. You know, I was up north where they were, so it wasn't so bad for me. But, you know, they kind of called me and said, oh, I think your brother and sister should come up soon, and we've got a room, you know. And I thought, oh, right, what, you want to come up now? And they were like, yeah, they should come now. And we were all there. But the night before he died, I stayed at the hospice, and I just was reading up about, you know, the last breath, and when people are, you know, on their dying bed or whatever you want to call it. And it was like, right, the breathing goes like this, then it changes to this. Their skin goes sort of like this marbly, waxy kind of state, and their eyes will be closed. They haven't really eaten for ages, but they can hear everything. So I was like, right, okay. So the next day, the day he died, I put on this amazing documentary. I don't know if you've seen it. Is it called The Octopus Teacher? It's about a guy. Yeah. So this is in South Africa, but it was actually filmed in the sea where my dad used to swim. And the guy that does the documentary has this lovely South African voice. I thought, well, he can't see anything, but he'll be able to hear the sea, and it's that sea, and he'll be able to hear South African voice. And I put that on, and then literally it was like textbook. Like, his skin was waxy anyway by then, and he hadn't had his eyes open for a couple of days. But I kept saying to him, he can hear. And then I listened to his breathing. I went, oh, Mum, his breathing's changed. This is it. And literally, that was it. And then he took his last breath. But it's interesting because I'd kind of done this whole textbook thing to see myself through it. And we were all very lucky because we were there. But then, of course, I mean, at the hospice, I said, look, you know, keep talking to him, because even though he's taken his last breath, they can hear you for, you know, about a minute and a half. So and then we were all going, love you, Dad, love you, and everyone was fighting over each other to say their final words, like scrambling to get stuff in the last minute and a half. And, you know, it does make me smile.
Love you more.
Love you. Yeah, get out of the way, you know. Yeah. It's so bizarre, isn't it? But
it's so,
we were
it's so
lucky.
bizarre. It's sad. It's so
I know.
sad. I remember the breath, that rattle, and
then gone.
Oh, do you know?
And then you're like, wow, God.
It's so sad. And I honestly felt like crying when you were speaking there. It just takes me back to being in hospital. Well, and my mum was in a nursing home, and I hated that for her because she was the youngest person in there. But because it was her cancer that spread to her brain, and she fought that and she won that battle. But then the brain damage that she had from the radiotherapy caused the strokes that then caused dementia, that then caused her everything just to fall apart. And then when she was in hospital, we got the phone call to say, like, well, we were away, and it was such a weird thing because I wasn't going to, I knew something had changed, and we'd been there all the time. My sister was in Turkey at the time, and I'd joined her I'd had this villa, and I was there for a few days, and I just knew, and I just had this feeling. And anyway, they phoned us and said, like things aren't great, can you come back? So we were literally here 2 days, dropped everything, got a flight back, we had to go to Manchester, then the train to Manchester, up to there, and we got there, and my friends were with her, and my stepdad, and they were saying, Fiona, hold on, because the girls are coming back, and oh my God.
Wow.
And they were saying,
and they wait,
she
don't
waited,
they?
she waited,
they
and
do
they
wait.
said, she won't, Janine, my friend, and Lee had said, and the nurses were like, this is imminent, and they just kept saying, Fiona, you know, you need to wait, and she did. And as soon as we walked in, she opened her eyes, and she gave us 3 days.
Wow.
And we just lay with her, and but when it was just, I remember saying to her, she was so scared to die, though she didn't want to die, she wasn't.
No.
She was so scared, and I was like, Mum, do you know it's okay? And she's like, she was trying to speak and say, I don't want to go, and I know. Oh, it's so sad.
It's so sad. It is, and it's I think for my dad at one point, he was asking me to say, please give me something, I need to go now. But then he'd be in this whole turmoil. Then the next day he just didn't want to leave us, you know. And he was given 2 weeks to live, and he lasted 12, you know. And that's a funny time though, because you're almost grieving already, you know. That's the thing. I mean, you must have done it for a long time as well. And, you know, so your emotions are really quite unique at that point. And I found that, you know, I'd have these conversations with him where I think, oh, does he want to go today, or doesn't he want to go today? You know, and do I want him to go today? And, you know, but deep down, you know, the inevitable, and you are like, you just need to go, you know, and they wait. Then you feel that you have to give them permission. And you have to promise them that everything's going to be all right. And all he was like, what about your mum? What about your mum? And I was like, Mum will be fine. I'll look after her, I promise, you know. And you never forget those words. You never forget those promises you make to that person. And I never will, you know. And so, you know, it's I phone her up every day, make sure I take her out for a scone and a cup of tea, and I'm ticking a box or two.
I'm doing it, Dad.
I'm doing
keeping
it.
my promise.
Don't worry.
I'm keeping my promise. Don't hurt me, please.
I know.
It's mad, isn't it? It's like, I remember when she went, and she was still warm, and honestly, it felt like she was still in the room. Her energy, her spirit. I said to my mum and Bobby, my stepdad, she's still here. And even then, like, I'm more spiritual than them. I think my sister's sometimes like, oh, maybe a wee bit. But then my stepdad's like, okay, whatever. But all of us said, we feel her. We felt her in the room. And I remember holding her hand, and until like the Undertaker came and took her away. Then she started getting cold, and it was like I was speaking to her, even though like it was just her body. Like, I remember phoning people to tell them that she had passed. And then I would say to her, right, that's so and so, I've just told them, Mum, did you hear that? And she wasn't that close to my uncle or brother. I shouldn't really say this, hopefully he's not listening to the podcast. But I remember phoning, and I was so upset, because I just thought, why were you never like check on my mum? Like, why did you never, like, you've got your he's obviously working through his stuff and whatever. But I remember picking up the phone and going, just phone him, maybe he's fucking bit arsehole or something. Else said something like that. You don't even check on your mum, you just phone him. I was like, but I laughed. I was doing it in a jokey way, because I thought she would probably just laugh and be like, who cares? You know, like, my mum was very much like, as long as she had her core.
Exactly.
People,
the others can like, come and go. Whatever.
It's like all that mattered to her were like my sister and me and the kids, you know, like that was her world. She used to say to me, why are you doing that? Like, if I ever wanted to go away somewhere, she's like, why do you want to do that? Like, she's just like a whole bird. Like, similar, we're so similar in some ways, but so different in other ways. But I mean, her legacy and your dad's, like, that legacy, you know, it's like, who's going to tell their story? And it's down to us.
It is. That's what I keep telling. I keep saying to people, you know, and also they're a generation of people that did have stories and they were wanted to share them, but not just on social media. You know, they're the ones that used to sit you down, and, you know, there'd be no TV on, no gadgets on, and you'd sit down and listen to their stories. And those storytellers, you know, they are disappearing. And I think it's down to our generation really to make sure that it continues one way or another, and that we talk about them in those stories. You know, it's down to us to make stories up about them now. Well, not make them up, but, you know, tell stories.
Yeah, tell the stories.
Yeah, I
Take them
think
with
so.
us.
Yeah, I think so. You know, and at this time of year as well, with Christmas, etc., it's difficult. But this is your first Christmas then, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, it'll be okay. It will be.
Yeah, we'll have our moments, and
yeah, it's a process.
We had our last year with us, and we didn't think we were going to get it out. But my sister and I are kind of like dogs with bones when it comes to my mum, and even with she was in hospital with COVID. Well, she didn't have COVID. She was in hospital, and of course they weren't letting us in. I swear, me and my sister camped outside the hospital until they let us in. Like we were like, no, we're not accepting that.
Oh,
we're not accepting that.
Oh, that's what I did.
It.
I was like, sorry.
I remember, and someone trolled about me doing this because when I went to Bali, I was getting trolled for Bali. But someone had written.
Don't read it, by the way. Any of that.
I didn't.
You're always. Oh, good.
I didn't. But someone told me that said, oh, she was she actually was. Somebody had said, oh, yes, she was bragging about getting in to see her mum when COVID was on, and I said,
not bragging. You're thinking for yourself. Looking back at it now, I wonder what that person's got to say.
I know. Do you know what? I was thinking, I'm so glad. I'm actually so freaking glad I did. Because you know what? I'm not late. I wasn't, and as everyone's different, right? But for me and my sister, my mum needed us.
Yeah.
And I'm not doing the real thing when it comes to her, because
not when not everybody else is doing it, and half of the rules don't even make sense anyway, but that's another podcast.
Exactly. No, but we did it, and you know what, I'd do it again, and some people won't like that, but I'd do it again because that's one thing I do not regret.
No. Is good for you.
What we did, and during those last few years, at any opportunity we were there. And some people will think, well, but to be honest,
you know, let them have their opinion. But all that trolling, you just don't look at it. Don't look at it. I don't. No. Anything like that. Or it's always comment. Is it mail online comments? Never look at those.
No, they're
never
the
look
worst.
at those.
They're the worst.
Unless I might actually dig them all out actually over Christmas just for a laugh. I might get everybody to read out the worst ones if I've had a couple or two. It might be quite a funny game to play, or not. But you
so
do.
Christmas for you this year, Jenny, right? Obviously, you know it's still early for you, not having your dad around. Do you feel it does? Do you feel this time of the year does heighten the grief?
A little bit. I don't know, it just makes me more, I just reminisce a lot more. You know, songs mean a lot more to me than they did. And you know, Christmas Day, we always are quite quiet anyway. There's just me and the girls and my mum, and Martin, and might get a couple of friends, but we always sort of do a quiet Christmas. But last year was actually fine. I think we all surprised ourselves. You probably surprised yourself actually, because there's, you know, you're all together though, aren't you, as well? And you're all thinking the same thing, and you're going through it together. But it actually was absolutely fine. Well, it was for us. So it's just a quiet one really. I don't cook, so I've got all mine frozen and ready made, and I chuck it in the freezer on the 22nd and get it out on the 25th, and it takes 2 hours. No peeling potatoes. Boom. No nothing. No, boom. Not me. Boom. Not me.
Boom.
No, it's not happening.
We're doing a little bit different this year because we usually have it in mine, and I have everyone. So I have my sister and her family, well, her daughter and my brother-in-law, and Daryl's mum and dad and my mum, and everyone comes here. Oh. So this year it was 17, and I'm like, I can't do it this year. No. I'm just not feeling the vibe for that. So we're having it at my sister's. So we're splitting it this year. So Daryl's mum and dad and stuff, they're going away to his brothers, and we're just having it at my sister's. So it's a little change of a venue, which maybe changes it up a little bit.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah.
Well, listen, I'll cry. I definitely will. I know I will, but that's okay, because I feel like the more that I just allow myself to have those moments when they come and make space for them, they pass.
They do.
They pass quicker rather than trying to ignore it. If I feel it coming. Like I was recording a podcast yesterday. I don't know if you follow Donna Ashworth. So Dawn Ashworth, she's got the books,
I might
Love, Loss and Life.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So I had her on, and then I started to read one of her poems about Christmas without your mum. Oh my God, I got 2 lines in, Jenny. I was bawling. I couldn't even get it. I was like, oh Jesus. But again, that's real life, right?
Yeah.
Those emotions.
Yeah, of course. And like you say, it's the one thing that's going to happen to all of us. Everyone's going to go through grief. Everyone.
Yeah.
And everyone's going to die as well. On that happy note, no, but you know, we all are. It's
we
part
love
of
hard. That's part of loving,
it's
right?
part of loving, but also, you know, I keep saying to people, listen, it's part of life.
It is.
It is part of life.
Don't try and change it or
no, because it's not.
Or ignore it or force it. We've got to feel it. It is inevitable, and when we love hard, we hurt hard too. So oh, Jenny, thank you so much for coming.
It's a pleasure. I love your jumper, by the way. Look at me. I'm just like in my vest, like I think it's the summer.
Well, do you know what? I thought, well, this is going to go out before Christmas, so might as well start looking a little bit festive.
I'm so sorry.
Jenny, did you like my wings? Look at my butterfly wings.
I was wondering what that was. Gosh, they're very. Oh, I see.
Like dried sort of flowers and.
No, I like it. I like it. They were like ears from where you'd positioned yourself. It's a bit gremlin-y. So I was like, I won't comment because I'm not sure what they are, but I know now.
What is that? Yeah, butterfly wings, like it.
But you have a lovely Christmas,
Thank you so
and
much.
you do what you need to do the way you need to do it, honestly. And it will be fine. It always, and it's just a time thing. And it changes you, but I'm happy with the change. It's all good, everyone. It's all good.
It's all welcome sometimes, but it's going to happen. Just embrace it and take your time and give yourself grace and compassion. Thank you so much, Jenny.
It's a pleasure.